Welcome to another edition of the Kauffman Corner podcast. With you, as always, the good doctor, Dr. Rany, Jazayerli. I am Soren Petro from Sports Radio 810 WHB. Let's talk Royals baseball here, Rany. We are going to talk to Vinnie Pasquantino. We'll find out about how his offseason's going, the magical run of 2024, his incredible healing powers when it comes to his thumb, what he's excited about 25, how his workouts are going, who chatters at first base. Always like to know that kind of stuff. Maybe we'll get into the Jets. It's coming up right now here on the Kauffman Corner podcast.
This is the Kauffman Corner Podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Royals, breaking down the Royals like no one else can. Kauffman Corner is hosted by Rany Jazayerli and Soren Petro. Rany is a co-founder of Baseball Prospectus, author of Rany on the Royals, and former columnist for Grantland, The Ringer, and The Athletic. Soren is the award-winning afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. Kauffman Corner is proudly brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. Now, here are your hosts, Rany Jazayerli and Soren Petro.
Thank you very much, Curtis. We do appreciate it. Rany, a special edition of the Kauffman Corner podcast as we're about to welcome Vinnie Pasquantino, the Pasquatch, to the program. An incredible season for Vinnie Pasquantino, an incredible season for the Royals, as we've talked about, and a season that doesn't happen unless he has the kind of year that he had. We saw how valuable he was when they lost him for a little while down the stretch. Pretty exciting day to welcome Vinnie here to the festivities.
Absolutely. No, we haven't had an active player on the show, and I'm thrilled that it's Vinnie to be our first guest. And let's bring him in.
Yeah, without further ado, we do welcome Vinnie Pasquantino here to the here to the Kauffman Corner podcast. He's been with the Royals for a while. Vinnie, how are you, my friend? I'm
doing great. I hope you guys are doing well. Thanks for the invite on the show. Happy to be the first active player to be on the show. What a fun. Yeah, I'm glad to be the first.
Yeah, it's awesome. And listen, I think everybody around town has seen your personality and seen you. You are one of the fan favorites for everybody. So it's great for us to be able to bring on somebody that Kansas City universally loves. And I've talked to you on a number of different occasions. It's always a great conversation. And but what's amazing to me is every fan comes up to me. And so, I ran into Vinnie Pasquantino here. Everybody that comes away from seeing you for the first time has such a positive reaction to you. Do you ever have a bad day? Do you ever get up cranky? Because I know no one who has ever come away from talking to Vinnie Pasquantino that doesn't come away saying, wow, what a great guy.
It's just because I don't go out that much in Kansas City. No, I don't know. I just feel like I'm a normal person. That's the way I look at it. And I think it's super humbling getting recognized in the city and just being able to talk to different people, because I grew up in Richmond, Virginia, where there was no major sports team. And I think it's super cool that you could just go to the store and see somebody on a team that you see every night. Even walking the dog, I would see people, they'd stop, say hello. And one thing I really appreciate about Kansas City is it's never annoying, because it's always just simply that, like, hey man, like, big fan, good to see you, hope you have a good day. And it's just like, I respect the hell out of that, really, of just, nobody in Kansas City has ever bothered me, if that makes sense. So I have a ton of respect for the city, obviously, for the people in it. And it's just, it's super exciting to be able to spend 6 to 8 months in Kansas City every year, because it's just a great place.
Well, Vinnie, the one thing about you that we learned might not be normal is your ability to heal from a broken bone. Because when you got your thumb fractured at the end of August and they announced, this is a 6 to 8 week injury, like, I looked at a calendar and I did the math and I'm like, okay, if everything goes perfectly, you could be back for the ALCS. And then it was like 29 days after surgery, you were in the lineup the first game of the playoffs. Like, did you have any hope after the injury that you could actually be back in time for the postseason? And I'm curious, like, was there anything about your rehab process that was unusual or different, or that gave them reason to believe you could come back as quickly as you did?
And Vinny, note this, that is a medical doctor. When I call him Dr. Rany Jazayerli, he is a medical doctor that's slinging that around.
I mean, I am a dermatologist, but technically, yeah.
When the injury first happened, I thought there was no chance. I mean, I could like the way the injury happened is kind of funny because Urseg also got banged up on the same play, and no trainer came out to me, and I just kind of took myself off the field, which like obviously wasn't funny then, but is funny now thinking about it, because I remember Q walked up to me and was like, "What do you got?" And I said, "Well, the bone." Like I'm looking at my hand, I'm like, "The bone's over here, so it's probably not good." I think I broke it. And then we went to the x-ray room. The doctor, we have our head trainer in there, and then Houston's team doctor. They're looking at the x-ray, and Urseg's in the room with us too. I feel bad about this now. I felt bad about it immediately after, but they're talking, a bunch of doctors speak. And then I just look at our head trainer, Kyle Turner. I'm like, "What is it? Like, speak to me." And he's like, "Yeah, you're done." And I just started screaming. Like, I feel bad about it because it was right in front of Urseg, and he felt super bad about what had happened. But obviously in that moment, I'm being super selfish, being like, why does this keep happening to me? But I think, in that moment, I didn't think there was a chance. But then as I kind of calmed down and the adrenaline went down, the pain went up. It was like, all right, let's get back to KC. Let's have surgery on this thing. And we actually had to wait about 4 or 5 days before the swelling went down enough to be able to have the surgery. I think still when I got, so I was in a cast for 3 days. I think you're supposed to be in it for like 10 days, but obviously we're pushing. Like I went to the hospital. I went to KU Med. I'm pretty sure I'm allowed to talk about this. I don't think the team could, but I'm pretty sure I'm allowed to say whatever I want.
I think you can talk about anything about your
I would say as the HIPAA, so the so-called HIPAA expert here, you're allowed to say whatever you want.
I go and meet with this lady at the KU Med who's doing my cast, and she's like, "Okay, we'll see you in 12 days, whatever it was." And in my mind, I'm like, well, I'm going with the team to New York, and I know that this cast is coming off in a few days, so I will not be seeing you, but sure, let's set up this appointment. When we got the cast taken off, the stitches looked like a worm. Like it just looked like a worm up and down my hand. It was disgusting. But then when we got the stitches out, I got them out in Pittsburgh. I remember being like, okay, maybe I do have a shot because it didn't look so disgusting anymore. And we were doing 2-a-days. I was going in the morning. You wouldn't see me in the dugout because I was doing rehab during games as well. So I was going in at probably 10 a.m. and then doing rehab, getting out of the way when everybody came in, and then during the game would get rehab done again. And basically just strength exercises, trying to see what kind of pressure the bone could handle. And then we started doing arts and crafts, which was how can I make the bat work for me and see what happens. I think I have a video of like 3 days after surgery. I was doing one-handed swings, which is really funny. Wow. I wasn't wearing shoes. Like it was just like, okay, can I rotate? And then once the mindset got there of I think I can make this happen, it was just full go from there. And we made it happen. I don't think it's anything special because I think every single player would have done the same thing, especially being able to get a taste of the playoffs. Obviously, I'd been with the Royals the previous few years. We weren't very good. It's like, I'm not missing this, assuming that the team will allow it, because I still need to try to be productive. It's not just, hey, you're a charity case, welcome back to the team. It's, no, you got to be able to be productive. I felt like I could be. Had a good workout in Atlanta where I got to see live pitching, and we went from there. So it was pretty exciting. I wish I could have done more in the playoffs. And, I still think about not being very good in the playoffs, but, as we continue to work forward, hopefully there will be more playoff games to be had.
I'm always amazed at how you guys keep your swing in order. I mean, we think of a golf swing and people get off on a golf swing and the ball is just sitting there. It's just sitting there. You guys are trying to put together some of the similar, some of the same mechanics, but hitting a ball that's going, 80 to 100 miles an hour and darting and diving all over the place. And so that does require, more tension and stress on the hand because it's not just a uniform swing that you're putting through there. Did you have to adjust how you swing? I mean, you got back and you played, but was it, okay, I got a new swing? Because that is, like I said, just finding the swing that works for you is hard enough, but then to try to work around something and then maybe get back to the old swing is an incredibly complicated process. I mean, was that Vinnie Pasquantino swing in the postseason, or was it Vinny's hands mostly back swing in the postseason?
Well, I mean, I don't think there's any denying that it wasn't 100%. I mean, But even if I was 100% healthy, I don't think it would have been 100% with no rehab games, no like really see, like that's just as important as being 100% healthy. I think it's why there's such a slow build up in spring training of making sure, okay, I need to make sure I see this many at bats, this many situations, different things like that, just to make sure I'm ready to go. And then they always still say it in April, like pitchers are ahead of hitters for a reason. It's because it takes a little bit of time to get things going. And then if you magnify that a little bit more, you're facing the best teams in the league. So you're facing the best pitching in the league. Like it was a quick buildup. However, I was ready for it in my own mind, I felt like, and anything that may have happened in the playoffs, good or bad, like I was ready for that moment, physically, mentally, everything. So no, was I 100%? No, but I would argue that a lot of guys weren't 100% too at that time of the year. So it's just one of those things.
Now you know, this wasn't the first time you've had to rehab from an injury, obviously, because last year your shoulder, you had, surgery on your shoulder as well. And so this is, your first off season in a while that you kind of have a normal off season, just prepare for the season, prepare for spring training. So how is your health now? Are you feeling 100%? Like, do you feel differently than you did, not just last year, but, healthier than you've been in a while? And how does that affect your off season routine to prep for the upcoming year?
Yeah, so it kind of has been. I had surgery again in November to get the metal taken out of my thumb, which required another way easier rehab, because it's not really rehab at that point. You're just letting the bone actually heal itself, just because of the holes where the metal was. But yeah, it has been nice to actually be able to go through an entire, I can lift. I don't have to hit. Like last year I was hitting in October to rehab the shoulder, to be like, okay, I need to make sure everything's working correctly. So I had been hitting up until this October, where when the season ended, I had been hitting for, 12 months straight, which we never do. So now I was able to pick up 2 weeks ago like I normally would, which has been nice. I've been able to focus a little bit more so on my body, how I'm moving, different strength things instead of specifically rehab. I'm doing everything I can to not make myself an injury-prone player, even though I would argue, one of them was the same injury that we, decided to not get fixed to see if I could get through the following year. And then one of them I got run into at first base. Like, if you think I'm injury prone because of that, like, that's on you, not on me. Sorry, I tried to make a play and my thumb snapped. It's nothing, it's just, I don't have any regrets about it. Like, what do you want me to do? Not go for the ball. So, I'm doing everything I can, everything in my power to make sure that this isn't a common theme for me. I'd like to be one of those guys that's known as, like, the Pete Alonso thing right now is he's played every game the last 6 years. Like, that would be a great thing to have, and it hasn't been my reality as of thus far in my career. But I'm working really hard to make that a reality for me, because it's important for me, and not to say F the fans, but in that regard, like, I'm worried about the guys in the clubhouse, knowing that I post every single day and I'm there to help us win, and that's important to me, and I'm hoping to make that a reality.
Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Parking lot problems? They've been making them disappear in KC since 1994. Don't risk accidents and liability in your parking lot. Get your lot restriped today. A brightly striped lot will cut down on accidents and keep your lot as safe as possible. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. What does an off-season workout look like for Vinnie Pasquantino this time of year?
This time of year, I get up at 7. Like, I could just take you through my day, because everything is routine oriented in our lives. Get up at 7, take the dog out, make a cup of coffee, bring the dog back in, feed the dog, get a pre-workout, get in the truck, go work out, go to the facility, get to the facility, work out. Probably takes, I don't know, an hour or so, depends on what I have that day. And then at 10:30 we hit, or at 10:30 we start doing defense. That probably takes about 20 minutes, and it's kind of hard to do because it's not the biggest facility. Do defense, mostly just handwork, different things like that, and then go into our hitting, which this time of year On Mondays, we're doing batting practice. On Tuesdays, we're doing machine fastball decisions off of specific pitchers. On Wednesdays, we're doing breaking ball decision making. On Thursdays, we're doing BP again. And then on Friday, we do a competition day, which is you face those same pitchers, but you do actual at bats off those pitchers off the machine. And you basically just, whoever has the best day, we have like a necklace that we give out every week to whoever wins. We call ourselves the Silverback Tribe. It's a pretty good group of individuals that are in there working out. It's my agency. It's a pretty cool thing. Like my agency was really interested in the development of players, not just like the money-making side of the players. So we have a facility for anybody in the agency. I think there's like 45 guys, and we basically all just train together in the off season. It's a really cool group, and it's cool to see guys. I think there's 10 major leaguers, something like that. So it's really cool to be able to work out with different guys and then see them play all season.
Where is that? Where are you in the off season?
I'm in Nashville, Tennessee.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Is that why you chose to live in Nashville in the off season, was to have that facility that your agency has right there, right in your backyard?
It is the sole reason. I'd probably still be in Virginia if I didn't go with this agency. But I moved here in 2019 right after the draft, just simply for the facility, just to be like, I have a hitting guy, I have a strength guy, my agents are here. And those guys are my agents as well, but that's what they specialize in. So it's really a cool atmosphere to be in. Like Brent Rooker's here, who just signed a big deal with Oakland, who was, with the Royals a few years ago. Brandon Lau, Jake Berger. There's a few younger guys too that are coming up. It's a really cool thing.
And that's we talked with Brian Sweeney a couple of weeks ago, and that is, I'm old enough, you can tell by looking at me, to go back to the days when like clubs didn't want you messing with anybody that wasn't them. And now Brian talked about embracing he said there's so many great, quote unquote pitching labs out there. We love the work that they're doing, and that is the new world of baseball, is the organization working with your people as well to try to give you a full 12-month, whatever works best for you. And I think that's great, because I remember players warring with the Royals, frankly, about long toss and things like that. It was pitchers that were a big thing. And now it seems like there's a much more harmonious relationship there between organization and agencies.
Yeah. That's still definitely a thing, especially during the season, of just, hey, I'm with you every day. I'm not saying our guys. I think our guys are great when it comes to collaboration. You've talked to Sweeney. Sweeney's awesome. Sweeney's helped me with my throwing. Like if you watch videos of me throwing in 2022 versus last year, it's like, it's not completely different, but you can see that some things have cleaned up, and he's a lot to blame for that, because he's helped me a lot. Like that's kind of funny thinking about a first baseman talking with the pitching coach about throwing motions, but it's just like, that's who he is. He preaches that collaboration, and it's really cool. But yeah, that's still definitely a war of like, I don't know. I blame baseball for that, because they put us all in the same bucket and want to pay us based off of the same bucket, yet they value/devalue specific positions, but then only want to pay you based off of one certain bucket. And it's like, okay, well then I got to go out and figure out how to create my value. And in some ways the teams want to actually devalue you, so then they don't have to pay you. But it's just, it all comes down to money at the end of the day. Not necessarily in a bad way, but it just is what it is. And I think as more public data becomes available, like more people can speak about what's happening in the game. And in that regard, it means I have more information on myself than ever before too, because all the information's out there publicly. So, I know you and I spoke about a lot about defense last year in Arizona. And like, that's still the case. Like I'm still trying to figure out, analytically speaking, what do you have to do to be a very good first baseman, because there's so much information out there. And like, I've spoken to people who've created those formulas and they don't know. Like if picks don't matter at first base, then what does matter at first base? Like I just think there's I've got all these opinions on it. Not the time, but like, it's just very, like the game is in a very funny place, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, I'm very sympathetic to your comments on the analytics side. Obviously, as someone guilty of being at the beginning of that, the forefront of that, I will say, as much as defensive metrics, as far as they've come from 20, 25 years ago, when we were just like throwing darts at a dartboard, they've come a long way. But the two positions I feel like we still really struggle with in terms of the metrics, catcher and first base. And I would say catcher, even catcher, I think we've made a lot of strides now with like pitch framing, and some of the work that, MLB.com is doing with like blocking pitches that are like they've made some strides. First base is tough because, like you said, how do you value the bad throw from the third baseman that you pick? And I do feel like it's an area we don't do great. And so it's the one position where I look at the defensive numbers, I'm like, maybe this is true, maybe not. So
it's just interesting. Like within the game, to be a good first baseman, what do you say? You say, okay, do my fielders trust throwing to me, and do I catch the ball? Like that's kind of but if you look at it, like there is a cheat. If I just catch a ground ball and throw it to a pitcher, I get double the points versus if I catch the ball and go touch first base myself. Does that really matter?
Right?
Hey, I don't know. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But there's just little things like that. Like theoretically speaking, if I play farther off of first base, I get tagged as a second baseman. Therefore, the value goes up. If I just like play a little bit farther off of first base, does that matter? Like I'd probably argue no. But at the end of the day, does it matter? No. Just make the outs, get 27 outs, win the game. That's what matters. When we start talking about all this, and you know this, Rany, like it's about 162. It's not about the one. Like that is the purpose of the analytics, at least in my mind, is like what's going to help us over this span, not today necessarily. Great, but it needs to help us win an extra game or two over the course of the season.
Right. I mean, I will say good analytics should not be doing that. What you're describing, that I'm hoping that they've weeded some of those.
Well, I'm more talking public. That's more public data. That's like
absolutely
right. The private data is what like I'm worried about. It's just funny when you look up a Savant page or something and it gives one guy positive, one guy negative, and they do the same thing.
Right. Well, the great example of this just locally, I mean, Eric Hosmer, right, had a really strong defensive reputation when he came up and throughout his career, and his defensive numbers are below average. And to this day, I still don't know what to believe, right? So like I completely sympathize that like first base is a bit of a black box, and sometimes you just as a first baseman, you have to do what you think is best for the team in the long run.
Yeah, I will vehemently defend Eric Hosmer against the numbers. Just watching him game in, game out, and the security that he gave on Baroa to just let anything go, right? Like that. The one knock on Eric Hosmer is he didn't tie his glove well enough, because once every year the ball would go through the webbing of his glove. He clearly liked he liked that pocket. And once per year, somebody would fire, I guess it'd be this way. Somebody would fire a missile over there and it would go through the webbing of his glove. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying he was the greatest first baseman of all time, but I don't think I'm with you, Vinny. I think the metrics did not accurately measure what he did for the whole infield, defense there with the confidence that he inspired with guys.
Yeah, I just think it's one of those things where it's not black and white. Like that's all I think about it is like, because I'm not saying Christian Walker or Carlos Santana shouldn't have won the Gold Gloves, because I do think they should have. They were unbelievable. I just want to know, like I'm on like the constant search of why. Like what do they do so well that I'm not doing? Because if I'm just not good enough, I've got no problem with that. Like that's just the way it is. But if there is something I can do to be marginally better, I would like to. I would like to be able to do that.
So, do you embrace all the numbers?
Defensively, offensively, like everything?
Yeah, everything. Or is there a point where you find? I remember I go back to Brian Bannister when he came in and has obviously moved on in the game, but as a pitcher, the knocks on him, he was very good when he first got to the Royals. And when he would have struggles, people would say, well, he's clouding his mind. He's worrying about he was one of the first players I remember really embracing the numbers. I do think that there is you can get to a, paralysis by analysis stage. I'm just curious how you balance all those out.
Yeah, I go like both ways on it, where like I want to be the player that has an understanding of everything, but not necessarily uses everything. Like I want to know why something is important, why something isn't important, and then is it important for me? So I would argue the past 2 years, I haven't been very good. And I think I know why. I got so caught up in pulling home runs because it's the most efficient thing that you can do. But as I've kind of thought about it, talked with people that I trust, what am I good at? I'm good at making contact and being being a good hitter, which you can't always you can't necessarily quantify what that means. And I think that there's some evidence in that from this past season is with runners in scoring position, I got way better. And I think that was because with nobody on base, it was like, okay, well, I got to hit a homer. If I hit a single, what am I doing? Everybody tells me I'm clogging up the bases if I just get on first base. So I should hit a double or a homer. And then it's like, oh, well, I'm flying out or I'm hitting the ball straight into the ground because I'm not leveling the ball out. And it's just my opposite field percentage went way down. I started getting closer to the plate, started yanking a little bit more. And one of my strengths is that I don't really swing and miss. So now I'm not swinging and missing, and I'm missing these balls, hitting them straight into the ground, hitting them up. Like I think my infield fly percentage was higher than it's ever been this year. And I think my straight down percentage was higher than it's ever been. So it's like I'm clipping these balls up or down because I'm so focused on doing damage, which theoretically I should be. I'm a first baseman. I need to hit for power, but also I'm throwing numbers out there. Hypothetically, these would be great, but like I'd rather hit 330 with 20 home runs instead of 240 with 30. Like even though the 30 home runs might be more valuable, one, it's more fun for me to play the game the way that I think I'm good at versus like what the game might tell me I should do because of the value perspective. And I'm not knocking that perspective because I totally get it. Like you're trying to win more games. What do analytics do for us? They try to help us win more games. So in that way, we should listen to it. But I also just think that as a player, I can't get caught up in the numbers because I have to go perform. And if I'm, like you said, like if I'm thinking about it too much, now I'm in the box thinking about it instead of just thinking about, okay, see a pitch, hit a pitch. So long-winded answer, but that's sort of how I feel about it because I feel like I can be way better than I have been, and I'm trying to find those answers.
Soren, we have a problem. I think Vinny's coming after my job because, like, while he's talking, I'm like looking at a Savant page, and I'm like, I'm looking at your spray chart for this year versus 2022, and I'm like, oh yeah, you are pulling the ball a lot more than you used to, and your launch angle sweet spot percentage, basically, the percentage of times you hit the ball in the right where you're not clipping it and you're not popping it up. Yeah, it went from 34% as a rookie to 37% and then 32%. So like you've done a much better job of analyzing your career arc than I have at this point. So yeah, I'm in trouble. But I agree with what you're saying about like trying to be the player that you, not just that you enjoy being, but like that fits your profile best. And like you said, what makes you, I think, pretty unique in the sport is that you have power, yes, but you also like the contact that goes with that is unusual. Like you 96th percentile in strikeout percentage this year, 96th percentile in percentage of swings and misses. You missed less than 15% of the time when you swung, right, which is 96th percentile. You struck out 71 times. Like this isn't 1972. This is 2024. Where did that come from? Like, is that something you can develop as a player? Is it something you can teach a guy once he's a pro, or is it just something when you were 6 years old you just always made contact? I'm just curious.
I think it goes back to my dad. Like it was always, if you strike out, that's the worst thing that could happen. That was always kind of the mindset. So I don't fear striking out. I just hate it. I feel like because hitting is pretty personal. Like it's literally just you versus another person. And like, I do take it personal. I do think that's actually one thing that analytics has done a good job with doing is it's more like that's a blank body out there. I know the stuff. Just go do it. But like, I look into every pitcher's eyes because it's just like, this is what we do. And just from a young age, it was like, okay, I'm pretty good at making contact. I'm just going to be really good at it. One thing my hitting guy here always says is just be great at what you're good at. Stop worrying about trying to be, the 5-tool. Like if I'm working on my speed all off season, something's probably wrong with what I'm working on. It's just something that's always been ingrained to me is just go be a tough out every single time. And I always took a tough out as being, okay, you throw a good pitch, I can foul it off, no problem. Or you throw a really good pitch and I can hit it to left field. I can bloop it in there for a hit. Call me lucky if you want, but I'm good at it. And that's just what I feel like is me as a hitter is just having tough at bats. And I think this year, sorry that I'm venting about this past year, but like one of the things I did such a poor job of that it's easy to obviously analyze after the season's over and you're not in it every day. But my first swing percentage was way down and my chase was up. And my hypothesis on that is I would get down 0-1 and then I would automatically swing at that 0-1 pitch no matter where it was. Whereas if I watch video from my rookie year, which is where I think I was at my best, I would swing at the first pitch, whatever, foul it off, do whatever, and then we'd get to 3-1 because I would spit on good pitches. And that's how I feel like I am as a hitter, is just a tough out. And I don't know if that answered your question or not, but yes, it's always been ingrained in me to not give in and try to hit the ball every time I swing.
Yeah. And it's worked, right? Like that's, I mean, I think it is kind of you mentioned your father talking about don't strike out. That's the worst thing. That's kind of like what Rany was talking about, old school mindset of, strikeouts horrible and we've gotten to modern days where guys strike out 200 times. And, it's if they can hit the ball over the wall and if they can also draw walks, and that's something you can live with. Modern baseball looks at it as an outs and out, right?
Yeah.
And in some ways, a strikeout doesn't get anybody else out. It doesn't advance anyone, but doesn't get
my biggest pet peeve is the sack fly thing. Oh man, it makes me so mad. If I were to go a week, just 1 week, where every single plate appearance I had was a sack fly, I'd probably have 28 RBIs, something like that. But I would have a negative 100 WRC plus, and my WAR would probably be like negative 0.4, something like that. I'm not saying I should get a bunch of credit for the sack fly, but I am saying that I shouldn't get negative points for it. It's pretty much the same as my argument about first base is I don't think I should get negative points just for doing it. Because it's just, what is the goal? The goal is to score runs. So how is scoring a run? I think my OBP this year was 315, which is this radio or is this?
It's audio and video.
You can say whatever you want.
Bad. It's bad for me. If I'm hitting 3-hole in a big league lineup, I should be able to have a 350 OBP. Right. But I think if those 13 sack flies that I had this year, say 6 of them, I was more so not trying to get the runner in and I get on base and now that'd be high percentage wise. That's not what my OBP was, but let's just say that now I'm at a 320. That's way better than a 315, but I've got 6 less RBI. I don't know. That's a bad argument because I'd have those RBIs anyway if I would just gotten hits. But I don't know. It just makes me mad that sometimes I bunted once this year and got ripped for it. First inning against the Cubs, nobody's out. First and second, and I put down a pseudo hybrid drag bunt, sack bunt. If I get the bunt down, great. It's second and third with Salvi up. If I get it down and I get on base, great. Nobody out. And I got ripped for it. And we scored the 2 runs. I'm sitting there we're up 2-0. Why am I getting ripped right now? Which I kind of get. I mean, the argument made to me was, why don't you just hit a double? And my argument back is, if I could just hit a double, I would. That would be awesome if I could just go up there and hit doubles. I'll tell you this. If I could hit a double every single at bat, I would take that instead of hitting any home runs. I'll just hit a double every single at bat, no home runs. I think everybody will be happy.
Do you ever get, I know from talking to people around the industry, the term baseball is hard comes up a lot. And I think that's part of the equation that maybe the casual fans and even some of the hardcore fans don't get. Does it get on your nerves that people don't really recognize how hard it is to hit major league pitching and hit it hard?
No, because that's your job as a fan to get pissed at stuff. I watch games on TV too, and I'm like, why isn't he swinging at this pitch? Why isn't he doing this? Now it's 100, and if I was in the on deck circle, I'd be like, this guy's throwing hard today. But I'm watching on TV. It's I watch football. I don't know crap about football. I still comment on it. But I don't know anything about it. I still don't understand if it's first and goal at the 1. Why are you not just running it 4 times in a row? I have no idea why that doesn't happen. But there's got to be a reason. There's way smarter people than me. But that's my right as a fan to bitch about the things that I want to bitch about. And they'll tell you, the biggest heat I took this year was against Milwaukee. I grounded into 2 double plays, and you would have thought that I killed somebody. I get back to my phone after the game. I'm like, yep, all right, social media is going off my phone tonight. This is a delete Twitter type of night. But as and I'm pretty sure we won the game. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure we won the game. But yes, Hobie Milner, the side armor from Milwaukee, got me to jam myself, and I got hit into a double play. And I forgot who started that game. I think it was Bryce Wilson or Colin Ray. Was he on the Brewers last year? Yeah. Double play. Either way, I made like 8 outs that night, and I was enemy number 1 in Kansas City.
We did win the game. I'm looking it up. You can rest assured we won anyway. So
yeah, we won. That's why I was like, okay, again, we win the game. But hey, that's the price of being a good team. Is even when you win, you get yelled at sometimes, and that's okay. That's a price I'm willing to take.
Do you ever feel a little extra pressure to get on base at home because you know that somewhere out there's a hapless Royals employee wearing a uniform, a Pasquatch? Like, it's got to be hot as balls in that thing, and like if that poor guy has to sit there for 3 hours and not even come out onto the out on the outfield fence, like that's pressure on you, man. Like you've got to make that person perform.
Yeah, there's also like pressure on me in that regard to just be good, because that doesn't happen for a whole lot of people. Like I don't know anything else like that that's happening in Major League Baseball. It's like one of the biggest honors of my life is that the Royals are like investing in like me indirectly. Like it's very, very cool. And yes, I wish I could get on base at home I do think about it. Like I got to get on base. Like this guy has to come out. There's some kid in the crowd being like, is it going to come out? I am a direct correlation to him walking out onto the field. So yeah, I got to get on base. It has to happen. It has to. It absolutely has to.
Do you have a fear that there's a kid riding home in his car after you went 0 for 4 and he's tearing up Vinnie Pasquantino car? I didn't get to see the Pasquatch.
Little does he know I'm doing the same thing in my car on the way home. I talk to my dad after every single, like if I'm driving home from the stadium, I'm most likely on the phone with my dad on the way back to my house. And if it's 0 for 4, there's some yelling happening in that phone call. I am proudly Italian. So is my dad. And sometimes like that, there's some screaming that goes on in cars. Like when I go 0 for 4, rest assured, I'm taking it worse than all of you are. That is, sleep easy at night knowing that I'm not sleeping easy that night.
All right, let's wrap us up with you. We'll let you go, and we'll chat some more here in a second. But your Jets fandom is well known. Like, how painful is it? Chiefs fans spent, I love we play it on our radio show all the time, the call of Kevin Harlan's when the Chiefs won in 2019, 50 years, a lifetime. So like Chiefs fans can relate, older ones, maybe some of the young kids that, are 10, 12, 14 years old. They really only know the Patrick Mahomes era of Chiefs, but Rany and I are old enough to know what it is to suffer through. And we've seen some cold times clearly with the Kansas City Royals that we're very thrilled is in our rearview mirror now with what you guys are doing. But, we can sympathize with the Jet fan. Like but it does not, from my view, it does not seem like there's any light at the end of the tunnel. Like, we touched on this a little bit. You could switch. You live part of the year in Kansas City. You could just be a Chiefs fan. Why not?
Well, Chiefs are team number 2, and this is my time of the year to shine. This is where the Chiefs gear that I have comes out of my closet, and it's great. So the Rashee Rice jersey that I have, I used to have a Nick Allegretti jersey, but since he's not on the team anymore, I
get it. The Italians,
yeah. We understand.
Yeah, so it's tough. It doesn't feel like there's any light at the end of this tunnel because I have no idea what they're doing. No, not one clue what they're doing. Like if you look at their roster, just if you were to put their roster on paper, it's like that's at least pretty good. I'm not saying it's a Super Bowl winning roster, but it's at least pretty good. And then they go out there and they win 5 games. How did this happen? And I think it shows how important coaching is in football because like if you have a good coach, bad team, you'll at least be competent in my mind. You might not be great, but you'll be competent. And the Jets were just not competent this year. There's so many penalties. Which is, I think they were second in the league in penalties, which is ridiculous because Baltimore is first. I don't know how they continue to they have one of the best players in the sport, I suppose. That's how they keep winning. But, I don't know what the Jets are going to do. Mike Vrabel just got hired with the Patriots. There was no hit piece written about the Patriots, like skirting the Rany rule, which definitely would have happened if the Jets did the exact same thing. Like the Jets are getting ripped for interviewing like 20 candidates. They can't do anything right. Somebody in that organization has made reporters so mad over the past 10 years, which teach their own. Hey, you've got an agenda against the Jets. Good for you. You're getting views. That's what you're supposed to do. So I don't know what they do. And man, they've got good players. I just want to see them win some games. Just like get to the playoffs. I think they should go try to get Mike Tomlin if the Steelers decide to trade him. I know he has a no trade clause, but if he wanted to leave, I think that would be great. I just want to see them play good football and enjoy my off seasons a little bit more than I have the past few years. But they've also been playing in like weirdly close games the past 2 years where it's like you're only down 6 in the fourth quarter here, and then somehow they lose by 20. And I don't know how this happens. Like, so it's okay. At least I have the Chiefs to fall back on and just support a Super Bowl winning team every single year.
Nice to have both of them. Nice.
Yeah, but I would like to go back to the Royals for a second because I feel like I've been mostly negative on this podcast. It's funny you talked about how positive I was, and then I went all negative the whole time. The Royals are awesome. We've got really good players. We've got the best player in the game, in my opinion, just in terms of doing everything. We've got some really good pitching. I think our front office is fantastic. I think the coaching staff is fantastic. I think the K, from a player, like it'd be cool to have a new stadium because new stadiums are cool. But if the K is your thing, that's great. I think it's a great place to hit at. My dad's calling me, and it's messing this up.
No, you're good. You're good.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's not. You probably are getting a notice on your screen, but you look good.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
No. Why did you go 0 for 4?
It's a really good question.
0 for 4 on the podcast?
I hope not. I think he wants to go hit later, so we'll see. We'll see what happens. But there is a lot of playoff football on today, so
yeah,
gonna have to watch that. But yeah, like I've said some negative things about myself mostly on here, but we're in a really.
I believe you just called yourself the best player in the game, right? So.
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You've been, it's clear that you are very critical of yourself. Like you do a deep self-analysis and it's, you probably don't give yourself enough credit for your positives, for your successes. I think you also are just a kind human being and you don't want to sit here and trumpet your horn. You don't get to the big leagues. You know, you can play this game. You know, you can play it at a high level. You don't get to the big leagues wondering if you're good enough to make it or things like that. There's a level of confidence there, but I think you're just a genuinely, like, I'll go back to what I said when we opened, a nice person. And I don't think you said anything negative about the organization. You are, I think, very critical of yourself, and that probably drives you. And you have found that has worked for you over the years, that like, let's find the mistakes, let's find the problems, and let's fix them. And that has resulted in a Major League Baseball career, which is hard to do.
You know, I've been lucky because I've been able to put chips on my shoulder every step of the way. So I never felt like I should have been an 11th round pick, but my stats probably deserved that I was an 11th rounder. I still don't feel like I need to be a DH, but if that's what the organization thinks, that's fine. And it gives me another chip to put on my shoulder. So I think you're right in that aspect. Is like, I'm just really like more so internally motivated. Like, I just want to be good because I want to be good. That's really it. And I think that's why I try to do these deep dives on, and I don't just do them on myself. I try to find out why somebody's good, why somebody isn't good, different things like that. And I just think baseball is really fun. I know that's not a popular opinion these days. It feels like baseball is always on like the hot seat of being super boring, but I just think it's a really fun strategic game, and I really enjoy that aspect of it. And it's really all I think about. Like, I just sit there and I go through our database all the time, looking at different players and, you know, where could we be better? How could we do this better? How could, you know, little things like how could I be a bit better base runner? And I think it's just fun to do that. And I appreciate guys like you who like dive into the game too, not just from oh, I see this guy stinks or this guy's good. Like, why? Yeah, I appreciate that about baseball fans. I feel like there is a lot of question asking amongst baseball fans of why does this happen? Why does this happen? And it makes it super cool.
Well, and then I think Nuke Lelouch said it a long time ago, like, winning's better than losing, man. You know, I don't know if you saw Bull Durham. You might be too young to have seen the movie Bull Durham.
Winning is way better than losing.
Yes, it's
way better. Is funny, though. There's a mindset that, and I always joke with guys about this. I'm like, I say publicly, I like winning way more than I like losing. And we've got some other guys, like Bobby and I get into this all the time. He always says he hates losing more than he likes winning. That's why, and we're saying the same thing, but it's so funny that, like, if I lose, I'm okay with it because I came out, I gave everything I had. You just beat me. Whereas I always looked at the other mindset of like, that's more of a negative mindset. It's like, I just hate losing so much that I'm just going to win. Whereas I'm like, no, I'm trying to kick your ass. But if you beat me, good for you. I'll just go home.
The battles of semantics on the charter plane between you and Bobby about defining winning versus losing. I love it. I love it.
Yeah,
Hey,
well, he should be that way because he's the face of the franchise. He should be like That's not my job. My job is just to kind of be honest and drive him in.
Yeah,
That's about it.
And it's pretty good. I don't know. He doesn't have a character that walks out every time he gets a hit, though.
You said it. I got one thing on him, and it's that he might have 300 million on me, but I've got that on him.
Hey, Vinny, thanks so much for the time. It's been great talking to you. You lived up to your reputation. We love having you in Kansas City. One, we love having you as a baseball player, but we also love having Vinnie Pasquantino, the guy, as part of the organization. And, I echo what you said, working with it. The organization is great to work with, the caliber of people matters, and you're one of those guys. And we really appreciate it. Thanks for spending some time with us and all the fans that I know consume the podcasts and the videos and everything. So, best of luck. Looking forward to spring training and looking forward to getting you to Kansas City and building on what was a great season last year.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I echo everything you just said. I love Kansas City. Love you guys. Thanks for supporting us. Thanks for following us. And thanks for having me on today.
You bet. Absolutely. Absolutely. We'll let Vinnie Pasquantino go. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews. Every project comes with a written warning. Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. The first baseman of the Kansas City Royals. I'm going to tell you what, Rany, not going to find a classier guy. I've met him. First time I met Vinnie Pasquantino was actually in a social setting and just said hello and didn't say what I do or anything. Just couldn't have been a nicer guy. But I love hearing him, and so I've always known that. And we can see he's obviously a very talented baseball player. But when you hear the work that goes into it, his day, the grind of what's going on in the offseason, you hear about the way he's frustrated when he goes home. I don't know how, if you're a fan, if you weren't already a Vinnie Pasquantino fan, how you either didn't get bigger as a fan or, if he didn't win you over there, because he is literally committed to doing everything he can to be the best baseball player he can be.
Yeah, no, I came into this interview with very high expectations, and he surpassed them, right? He was fantastic. And the thing about Vinny is we all, once upon a time, you and I all had dreams of being a professional athlete, right? We all dreamed one day we'd be a major league baseball player. And, when we were still young enough to have those dreams, I always thought, well, if I make it to the major leagues, I'm going to be, I'm going to be accessible to the fans and, great with the media. And I'm going to appreciate what I have if I'm a professional athlete, right? So I look at Vinny and I'm like, Vinny to me is the model. That's who I think I would have wanted to be had I ever been, lucky enough to have the ability to play Major League Baseball. His personality, his humor, he doesn't take himself too seriously. He takes the game very seriously, but he doesn't take, he understands it's a game, right? He understands it's still at its heart that he's very lucky to be able to play a game for a living, right? And he talked about being, he was saying how critical he was or critical of himself. I don't want to use the word critical. I think he's incredibly self-aware of his abilities. He broke down, what his performance last year, really better than you and I have. I didn't want to come on and say, he did have a worse offensive numbers last year than he did, as a rookie, let's say. But he was open about it. But he made, I think, some very clear points. And I completely agree with his assessment of get back to hitting, aiming for hitting 330 as opposed to aiming for hitting 25 or 30 home runs. He was the version of himself that was at the plate as a rookie was the best version of himself when he hit the ball the other way, wasn't obsessed with necessarily, selling out for power, but he has diagnosed that himself. So you can tell he's not maybe as, into the analytic numbers as we are, because he understands their weaknesses, right? Because he plays the game, so he understands that they're not the end all be all, but he's using those numbers to his advantage as much as possible. So, everything about him is just like, I'm really grateful he's a part of the organization, and I'm really even more optimistic than I was about him having potentially a breakout season in 2025.
Yeah, I am too. And, just hearing, I remember, I had a similar kind of feeling when I talked to Carlos Beltran back in the day, when I learned all the stuff that Carlos Beltran, I actually went and worked out with him. Like, hey, I was much younger then. I was like, can I just want to see what all, and, he's like, yeah, come on. And was going through it. And it's like, just amazing to see what the man physically could do just as a preparation. By the way, that was after spring training that day, right? He had already done spring training workouts. Then his workout was amazing. And I kind of get that same sense with Vinnie Pasquantino. Like you can go to bed, put your head on the pillow as a Royals fan, and know that Vinnie Pasquantino is working and is doing everything he can to be the best player. Anything jump at you that you're like, wow, that's interesting? I'll give you an example that for me, like, something we learned out of this conversation. The fact that he has reverse engineered the defensive metrics to the point of knowing, like, did you know this, that you get more points from flipping it to the pitcher than you do just stepping on the bag?
Well, again, this is why I brought up the point of, like, certain analytics do that and certain don't.
Right.
The older ones, I believe the newer ones do not, like, have that flaw in them. But the fact that he's broken down, like, he's pointing out, is an assist worth more than a putout, right? If you go back to really basic numbers, some analytics, some of the older versions, this was a real weakness. Like, that's why I discount, like, any, of the analysts we have.
But I do get it, right? I do get what they were thinking. Like, you have to make a throw and put it on target. So if you've done that, then you've done more than just the simple act, something you've been doing since you were 14 months old when you started walking, right? Or 18 months old when you started running. Like, I get the idea behind it, but I also get his frustration. But I love that he's diving into, I'm not just looking at the numbers. I want to know how you're arriving at the numbers. That's really cool.
Yeah, no, it is. What I try to tell people is analytics is not knowing what the numbers are. It's knowing what the numbers mean. Right? Like, if you're obsessed with what the numbers are, then you're just interested in the stats for the stats' sake. And, I love the numbers. No, I'm not denying they have a certain appeal if you have a certain mindset. But what we care about is what they mean. What and what they mean in the context of, how does this help me win? How does this help my team win? Right? How does this help the Kansas City Royals be better as an organization? He's looking at the numbers, but with the mindset of how can I use these numbers to make me a better ball player and make the team a better team? What more can you ask from an actual active major league athlete than to look at the numbers in a way that will help your team win? So I'm thrilled that he's doing that. And if he has, criticisms or concerns about the numbers, they're valid, and, he's absolutely warranted in doing so, especially if him diving into what those numbers means allows him to, adjust the way he's playing in ways that improve the team, but at the same time, not focusing on, well, it doesn't really matter if I throw the ball to the to the pitcher, or if I take it myself. What matters is how many outs am I actually getting, right? So I'm very pleasantly surprised at how seriously he takes the analytics, to be perfectly honest. Yeah. It was impressive to see, for sure. Anything else jump at you that you took away from this? You learned from this? Well, the fact that, he's as concerned about the Pasquatch as we are. Like, I thought that was hilarious. That I've always thought about that. I'm like, man, he somehow, and this gets into his Jets fandom too. Like, he's a fan as well as a player, right? And you know this. You've interviewed, I'm sure, a lot of major league players who are were born with the incredible talent to play Major League Baseball or football, whatever sport at a high level, but don't actually love the sport, don't actually aren't fans. He's a fan of the game, right? Mm-hmm. He watches other players. He was talking about, Carlos Santana and Christian Walker, and he's like, he wants to learn what they're doing at first base defensively. He can learn from, because he actually enjoys it. Like, he enjoys every part of it, even something as silly as having, his mascot running around in the outfield when he's on base. How can you not enjoy somebody, who's as much a fan as we are, right? We may not be a player, but he's a fan, so we have that in common at least, right? And it's just it makes the sport more fun when the players themselves are having fun with it. Yeah, and I think it makes the team even more entertaining when you like the players that play for it.
Right. And I think there's
Right.
there's certainly a reason to like Vinnie Pasquantino.
Right. And you have to think also, like, one of the things that analytics, one of the final frontiers we have is sort of analyzing clubhouse chemistry is we don't have numbers. We'd love to, but like, how do you measure what's going on in a clubhouse when you don't know what's going on in there? But you have to think that having teammates you like, having teammates that make it fun to go to work, like, you have this, with any job, when you go to work, like, if there's somebody you work with that you enjoy seeing, it makes you look forward to going to work, makes you probably work a little harder because you're having fun with what you do. And so having a guy like Vinny, they talk about glue guys, right? Guys in the clubhouse that just help social cohesion, help all the different players, 25 guys, 26 guys in a clubhouse get along better. There has to be, I don't know how we quantify, but there has to be value on the field in having guys in the clubhouse that everybody likes, that makes sure that everybody else gets along. I don't think it's a coincidence that the Royals had, one of the greatest single season improvements of all time in a season where Vinnie Pasquantino was healthy for pretty much the whole year. Not a coincidence in my mind.
No, and that's one of the keys. And you heard how serious he takes being healthy, and his frustrations when he has not been healthy. And a healthy Vinnie Pasquantino is a huge key to the Royals having success again in 2025, and he's working every day to make sure that that will be the case for 2025. All right, that's going to do it for us for the good doctor, Dr. Rany Jazayerli, of course, one of the co-founders of Baseball Prospectus. My name is Soren Petro from Sports Radio 810 WHB. Want to thank our fine sponsor, Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's best when it comes to your parking lots. They've been making parking lot problems disappear for more than 30 years. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot, with free consultations, no commissions, always their own crews that are working on it. Plus, all projects come with a written warranty. That's Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's best. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com. For Rany Jazayerli, I'm Soren Petro saying thank you very much for joining us here on the Kauffman Corner Podcast.